Hello, everyone. We're Tony and Sue Morris and Bishop Michael Warfel. We're your North American Secretariat Ecclesial Leadership Team. We're so glad to be here with all of you today. For as long as we can remember, the first presentation at the first North American Secretariat meeting of the year includes a state of our movement. We're going to start off the same way. Please note that this is not a list of what NAS said, CSET, our Canadian Caribbean Ecclesial Team, United States Ecclesial Team, any of our SSC coordinators, our region leaders, or encounter leaders have done. It's what's happened in North America for our movement. In 2022, there were 325 experiences presented in North America and the Caribbean. 214 of those were residential. 85 were non-residential. 22 of those were virtual, and 4 were 3REs, or the Restore, Renew, Rekindle Enrichment. A total of 4,135 couples lived their worldwide marriage encounter experience last year. That was more than double the number that attended in 2021. 51 priests lived the worldwide marriage encounter experience last year. That was 6 times the number of priests attending the experience in 2021. Additionally, 1,542 couples who went on an experience attended their renewal, and 1,323 community couples attended the renewal as well. Both numbers were almost twice the number from the previous year. There are 180 weekend enrichments with 4,719 attendees, which was very similar to 2021. There were 200 parish enrichments presented in 2022, more than double the number presented in 2021. 4,969 pre-encountered attendees, a 67% increase over last year, and 2,836 encountered attendees, a 310% increase over last year, attended these parish missions, enrichments. We believe that everyone working in this ministry outdid themselves in proclaiming the value of marriage and holy orders in the church and in the world. We also trained many new presenting teams and leaders. There were 4 profundos attended by 67 couples and 3 priests. There were 2 English deepers attended by 17 couples and 4 priests. There was 1 Korean deeper attended by 3 couples and 1 priest. There were 2 English LTRs attended by 21 couples and 4 priests. There were 3 Spanish LTRs attended by 46 couples and 2 priests. From a numbers perspective, 2022 was a great year for worldwide marriage encounter.
3 years ago, the March Council meeting was the last meeting to occur the same way that we were all familiar with. Then the world stopped. Just a few short days later, we were overtaken with the virus. It happened. We cannot change that. Some things changed for the better, and some not so much. Now we are tasked with where do we go from here? We have all experienced the lack of motivation and involvement in some since 2020. We want you to all think back to your experience. Once upon a time in a land far, far away, we all lived our original weekend experience. Do you remember how you felt at the end of that experience? Were you in love with your spouse? Were you in love with this ministry? Were you ready to go out and share that love with the world? We're asking you now to remember how you were feeling and make the decision to fall in love again.
Nothing is more practical than finding God, than falling in love in a quite absolute final way. What you are in love with what seizes your imagination, will affect everything. It will decide what you get out of bed for in the morning, what you do with your evenings, how you spend your weekends, what you read, whom you know, what breaks your heart, and what amazes you with joy and gratitude. Fall in love, stay in love, and it will decide everything. This falling in love prayer is generally attributed to Father Pedro Arrupe when he was serving in Japan. It was actually written by his associate superior, but use of prayers like this is commonly done. Father Pedro Arrupe was a Spanish Basque priest who served as the 28th Superior General of the Society of Jesus. He has been called a second founder of the Society, as he led the Jesuits in the implementation of the Second Vatican Council, especially with regard to faith that does justice and preferential options for the poor.
I remember growing up in the Chicago area. I was raised as an only child. My only sister was 21 years old when I was born. Was I spoiled? Yep, I admit it. I learned early on to play by myself when my friends all went home. I loved my dog, Barbies, and listening to music. That shaped my days. I was raised in a Catholic family who went to church every week, no matter what. Was that my choice? Nope. But I went anyway. Fast forward to my college years, after a few rebellious years as an obnoxious teenager, I chose to attend evening mass in the dorms to ask God to help me with my exams, my life, everything. That was the beginning of my love for God. It was my choice, not something that I had to do. In my sophomore year, I met Tony. He was one of the reasons that I got out of bed in the mornings and filled me with joy and gratitude. I changed from a me-centered focus to an us-centered focus. We spent as much time together as we possibly could, and a few years later began our life together as husband and wife. 2 years after we got married, we had our first child and fell in love with him. And then over the next 9 years, our 3 girls. And that shaped our world. Our world as we knew it changed, and there was less time for each other and for God. Was there still love? Yep, but it wasn't as vibrant as it once was.
I'm pretty sure that I fell in love with Sue before I fell in love with God. My background was different from hers. My parents divorced when I was 5. While I was baptized, went to catechism classes, and was confirmed, it would be a stretch to say that I was raised Catholic. My mom would take my siblings and me to church regularly, but not weekly. I was never an altar server. In the fall of 1976, when I was 17 years old, I went to a technical school that was on the campus of St. Louis University. I stayed in one of the dorms and made friends like most college students do. The difference was that 7 months later, I graduated from the technical school at age 18 and I entered the workforce. It was the following year when I was visiting some of my friends that were still at St. Louis University that I met Sue. She quickly became the focus of my free time. Part of that free time was attending Mass with Sue. I could tell that it meant a lot to her, and anything that meant a lot to her meant a lot to me too. By falling in love with Sue, I eventually fell in love with God.
It often surprises people when they discover that for a number of years, I was completely uninvolved in the church, a non-practicing Catholic. I was a young, immature teenager attending college and was unprepared for collegiate life, meaning academics. By my sophomore year, my grades were dismal, much as a result of not taking life seriously. I dropped out of college and joined the Army. While my 4 years in the Army were not exactly what I would call a faith-filled experience, it did allow me to begin maturing. Once I was discharged, I returned to my hometown and got what I call a nowhere job. I settled into a routine as a civilian, but the pattern of my life was much without meaning or purpose. I began to become emotionally down, and as a result of this, I began to stop for late afternoon mass after work at the local parish where I had been baptized. I was searching for peace of mind and heart. Ever so gradually, a commitment to my Catholic faith returned, and a desire grew within me to serve God in some way. I began looking at various religious communities, but never reached out to any one of them. Discussing my desire with my pastor, he suggested that I look into the seminary. I reached out to the diocesan vocation director and began the process whereby I entered formation for the priesthood, and which eventually led to my ordination. There was never a bold or blinding light from the sky akin to what happened to St. Paul on the road to Damascus, but there was a definite sense of being called by God. With each passing year, a sense of God's love for me had grown and has helped me to love God. 43 years later, it is why I get out of bed each morning and what fills me with gratitude for being called to serve God's people.
In 1995, we attended our worldwide marriage encounter experience and fell in love again. Our love shaped our world once more. We were called to share that gift, the one that we received on our weekend experience, with others. We wanted to be the example for those in our family and our community, and we wanted everyone to have what we had been gifted with. I stepped out of my comfort zone and gave witness talks at churches all over the area we lived and farther away. We said yes to presenting team and were part of the team presenting an experience just 9 months after our original weekend experience. After coming home from our weekend, I compared myself to the Resolve carpet cleaning lady who was unfazed by spills on her carpet, just saying, "That's okay," to each event. I was like that too. I was like the Resolve carpet cleaning lady, saying yes to whatever God wanted me to do. We continued down the path God chose for us, holding many roles in our local encounter until our present role as NAS, while still remaining true to what we found on that cold February in 1995. Daily dialogue allows us to share parts of us with each other every day. We journey with others who have similar values. We reevaluate when necessary. We and our relationship with God were and are the most important, followed by our family and our call to serve in this ministry.
For us, Worldwide Marriage Encounter and the time we gave to it, which was what fed us and gave us the energy to continue to have that love affair with each other and with God. It wasn't work. We were being selfish. Everything we did was helping us as much as we were helping others. The interaction we had with the various communities we were involved in was life-giving to us. Then COVID happened, and our involvement with the ministry changed. The task we were doing didn't change much, but the interaction with others changed significantly. We tried to stay connected from a distance, but like those coals that fall away from the fire, we were losing some of the passion. We were still in love with each other and with God, but tasks that were once perceived as a joy were becoming a job within Worldwide Marriage Encounter. I was questioning whether I would ever be open to a leadership position in Worldwide Marriage Encounter again. We were not as in love with Worldwide Marriage Encounter as we once were. But we continued to move forward. In March of 2022, we were fortunate enough to present our first weekend experience in more than 3 years. It was like wood being added to a dwindling flame with a little bit of gasoline thrown in. We were on fire again. We remembered why we said yes to God, to each other, and to this ministry. We were ready to go out into the world again, sharing the gift of the experience. We had fallen in love again.
Over 43 years serving as a priest and going on 27 as a bishop, life in ministry has not always been so rosy. There have been incredible occasions of joy and celebration and meaningful experiences, but there has been more than what I consider to be a fair share of struggle. During the years I was a parish priest, some of the activities to which I considered to flow from brilliant pastoral planning failed miserably. As a bishop, I had a staff to share the load of pastoral planning, but the extraneous circumstances interrupted the best laid plans. 6 continuous years of lawsuits, a year under Chapter 11 bankruptcy reorganization, and then the upset caused by COVID-19. Somehow, during all of this, I found that I was able to maintain equilibrium and faith and believe that a loving God was still in charge. An image comes to mind. We aren't always dealt what we consider a winning hand in poker. We just have to play the hand we've been dealt well. Drawing upon my first love in response to the call to priesthood, I continue to find ways to serve effectively, ways that will bear fruit. In the past decade, Worldwide Marriage Encounter has been a key reason, one of the primary ways why I get up in the morning. It allows me to have direct contact and provide direct support to married couples and priests who participate in a weekend experience.
We chose the falling in love prayer you heard at the beginning of this passage as the basis for this presentation after hearing it from Father Larry Broad. It struck us that we are in love with God, each other, and the Worldwide Marriage Encounter Ministry. That doesn't always mean we like things that happen or situations we're in, especially within Worldwide Marriage Encounter. But like our relationship with God and each other, we continue to stay actively involved with the ministry. We suspect you do too, or you wouldn't be here today or taking the time to watch this video. Seeing all of you here encourages us to keep going. We know there are challenges, hardships, and a lack of resources right now. The opportunity for this group is to determine how we move forward despite all of the opportunities that we've been given. We can't think of a better group of people to do that with right now. After all, with love, anything is possible.
Love changes everything, hands and faces, earth and sky. Love changes everything, how you live and how you die. Love can make the summer fly, or a night seem like a lifetime. Yes, love changes everything. Now I tremble at your name. Nothing in the world will ever be the same. Love changes everything. Days are longer, words mean more.
Love changes everything. Pain is deeper than before.
Love will turn your world around, and that world will last forever.
Yes, love changes everything. Brings you glory, brings you shame. Nothing in the world will ever be the shaping years. Love burst in and suddenly all our wisdom disappears. Love makes fools of everyone. All the rules we make are broken. Yes, love changes everyone. Live or perish in its flame. Love will never, never let you be the same. Love will never, never let you be the same.
And now we have a dialogue question for you. Am I in love with God, my spouse, and the Worldwide Marriage Encounter Ministry right now? And how do I feel about my answer?
We thank you for everything you're doing for this ministry and taking time with us today. We love you.
Love you.